oh gosh, lights right in my eyes. How about that? So I can't see you, can't see that you're all on your mobiles at the moment, but carry on. Anyway, some of you all heard some of this presentation in Windhoek anyway, so you can carry on your mobiles. But it's great to be here at the Future Hospitality Summit, and I'm going to be talking about the future of what could be happening in the hotel world in Africa. Just on AHIF, Matt didn't tell you that, as usual, AHIF started with a conversation in a bar in what was then my hometown, Guildford. And I was with Jonathan Worsley, and I said, well, when are you going to do an Africa conference? And he said, that's a good idea. You were there, Matt, weren't you? Yeah, Matt was there. First time I've met Matt, I think. So anyway, it started as usual in a bar, being hospitable with each other. And here we are today, the 15th, I think. Something like that. You did one in Lobe. We started in Casablanca, was the very first one. So, Future Hospitality Summit, future of the hotel industry in Africa. Generalizing, never generalize. Generalizing about Africa as a continent to start with. Those of you who don't know me, I've been a consultant for 41 years. Started as a wee young thing in Baker Street, London in 1983. And then for the last 21 years, I've been based in Africa. And I set up an office in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, in 2003. Everybody said I was crazy. Well, maybe I was, but Africa has been very good for me over the years. And what I'm going to be focusing on is this. It's an annual report. 2019 was the first year we did it. And it was just 2009. Oops. 2009 was the first year, and I was just curious about what the chains were doing. So I asked them what they were doing in terms of future development, and I put together an Excel spreadsheet and gave it back to them. Today, I think this is the 16th edition, which we managed to launch in April this year, and it really has become, I'm very proud to say, become the reference document on, what's it called? Hotel chain development pipelines in Africa. Now, I'm going to pick that phrase apart over the course of the next 20-odd minutes. So how do we do this? Each year I write to the hotel chains, and I say, what have you signed legally binding agreements for future openings in 54 countries of Africa? I say, don't give me all your LOUs and MOUs and LOIs and other things, just the legally binding agreements between an owner and a brand. And this is what they tell me each year. So those are the data. That's the big picture for Africa. By the way, don't take photos. You can have the slides after. Or if you go, and I'll give you my website, it's there to download off my website, the whole report. Sorry, you can take photos if you like, but you don't need to. So I get responses from, this is amazing, 47 hotel chains, which is, some of the Americans, the Europeans. I even get some from Singapore over that side, and some in Africa. Some of the African hotel chains will contribute as well. So I get 47 chains. Between them, 134 brands. Most of them have one brand, Four Seasons, the Four Seasons brand. Marriott International, 20-odd brands, of which Marriott Hotels and Resorts is just one. 20-odd brands that they are working with in Africa. And they cover 41 of the 54 countries. And they have just over 92,000 rooms in 524 hotels. And that's about 9% up on last year. And that's another thing I'm going to dig into shortly. Of those 524 hotels, or 92,000 rooms, about just over half is under construction. Okay? Now, in the report, I talk about what's that mean? What do you mean under construction? To me, and I will go and look, that means a crane is moving, it's doing something, and there are people on site with hard hats on doing things. Unfortunately, in many countries in Africa, under construction only means they've dug a bit of dirt. Okay? I can't separate those out, those that are basically have stalled. Yeah, they've stalled and they're not going anywhere. So about half is under construction. Let's just put those numbers into context. 41 countries. The pipeline is in China, according to Lodging Econometrics, is 3,775 hotels. One country, China, with a less population in one country, China, than there is in Africa, of which about 700,000, total 700,000 rooms, of which about 500,000 are under construction. And they project that 874 hotels will open in China in 2024. More hotels than in the entire pipeline. In the USA, the pipeline is about 6,000 hotels, much the same number of rooms, about 700,000, with about 11% due to open in 2024. So that's the context of what we're looking at. So I'm going to give you some data, and then I'm going to go back to some of the definitions. This is where it's happening. That looking at the number of countries that are in there are 4 countries, this is the 41 countries covered, 4 countries in North Africa, 11 countries in Southern Africa, 14 countries in West Africa, 7 in East and 5 in Central. And the clear standout is that 43% of the whole pipeline is in 4 countries in North Africa. Total 54. There are 5 countries in North Africa, nothing happening in Libya. The other 4, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Egypt, account for 43% of the entire pipeline. And Egypt, one country out of 54, is 28% of the entire pipeline. And within Egypt, 15% of the pipeline is in Cairo, one city. It's extraordinary how these numbers actually break down. West Africa is the next largest, but then it has more countries than anywhere else. It's got 16 countries out of, I think, 18 total countries in the region which feature in these data. I love this slide because we can talk about where it's happening, and we will talk about where it's happening. I mean, I just love this slide about where it's not happening. And these are the countries where there is no active pipeline. So I can hear the chains in the audience thinking, gotta go there, gotta go there, gotta get a deal, gotta get a deal. And Libya, obviously, you know, just not conducive to doing deals. And a lot of very small countries. So the 3 in the Southern and Indian Ocean, Comoros, Eswatini, Lesotho, West Africa, Guinea-Bissau, very small country, Mali, biggest country, big country. Politics? East Africa, Burundi, small country. It's had deals in the past, but not anymore. Eritrea, politics. Somalia, I'm not sure if there's a deal in Somalia, in Hargeisa, in Somaliland or not. Whether Louvre hotels can clarify for that, it seems to be on-off. And Sudan, one of the biggest country, not exactly conducive to doing deals. Central African Republic, Equatorial Guinea, Sao Tome, small country. So that's where it's not happening. I love that slide. Okay, so there's the kind of heat map in the wrong colors, just showing you where it is happening with the darkest green. Morocco, Egypt, Nigeria, and Ethiopia in terms of numbers in paper, the biggest deals. So there you go. There's the top 10 table. Egypt, I mentioned, 109 hotels in the pipeline for future openings. More than the next two put together, Nigeria and Morocco. So 104 together, Nigeria and Morocco, almost double the number of rooms of those two together. Look at all those four North African countries, they're in that top 10. Again, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Egypt. And then you get hotels coming into this. We actually tend to focus on rooms rather than hotels. So this is ranked by number of rooms. So you actually get Cape Verde coming in there with not an awful lot of hotels, but they're big boxes. Look at that figure there, 316 rooms per hotel, compared to the smallest in there, which I think is Ghana, at a sensible size, 135 rooms. But Cape Verde, they're big boxes. So these top 10, as is often the case with any data set, these top 10 have 75% of the rooms in the total pipeline. I hope you can see this okay. This is, we talk about Egypt, so let's focus on our cities. So Greater Cairo, look at it. Look how dominant Egypt and Cairo specifically is in this pipeline. And then it's got 15% of the entire pipeline in Greater Cairo, followed by Lagos and Boa Vista, which is one of the main resort islands in Cape Verde. Big difference in the average size, 600 rooms per hotel in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, and about 500 in Boa Vista. To about 150 rooms in Lagos and Accra and 130 rooms in Casablanca. And that is shown, I'm sorry, the pointer doesn't work, but that's shown by the gaps here between the rooms and the number of hotels because of those big beach boxes, BBB. Okay? And then, following on from that, what's happened in our pipeline is that originally there were very few resorts. It was all city hotels. And this year, in our, last year, when we published the 2023 version, resorts were 24% of the total pipeline, and this year they're 30%. That's quite a big increase. That's 25% increase in the share. Because as we probably all know, resorts have become an investment proposition for people who would normally have shied away from it. And interestingly, that last year, I'm going to talk about openings, but last year, about half of the rooms that opened in Africa in new hotels were actually resorts. The rest being primarily city hotels, very, very few airport hotels. Who's doing it? Like Egypt dominates the countries, Marriott dominates in terms of the signed pipeline in Africa. Again, nearly double in Marriott's pipeline compared to Hilton and Accor together. And some big changes there. Marriott have about 30% of the rooms in the entire pipeline. The only big global hotel chain missing from this. Anybody from Choice Hotels in the audience? Phew. Choice seemed, one of the biggest hotel groups globally, seemed not to have discovered Africa yet for some reason. So they don't appear here at all. It's all a bit curious. But all the other big hotel groups are there, and a little bit of mention for Best Western. They actually come in at number 12. Having said that, all the Best Western hotels are under construction, which you can't say of the others. So that's who's doing it. Marriott, Hilton, Accor, Radisson, all those names. TUI Hotels has got a phenomenal growth rate. Okay, it's from a small base, but they still now got 12 hotels in their pipeline. Quite big hotels, 269, resorts. They're all resorts. Okay, so this is where I kind of stop giving you lots of data and talk about so what. It's all about growth and value, isn't it? You hear the growth of Dubai, constantly growth, 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 growth. Everything is growth, okay? And I'll talk about the hotel stocks in a minute. They are forced to grow by the stock market, by their investors, okay? So growth is an imperative. So the hotel chain development pipelines in Africa is all about growth and value. And that chart shows, base 2020, the growth in hotels and pipelines since then. But growth in what? Tony Capiano, in Marriott's results recently, said, are we just stacking paper? And I'll finish that. Are we stacking paper or are we stacking bricks? Okay. Because, and this is fact, okay. And this is the chart that makes me cry a bit. We measure what we call the actualization rate. So if a hotel chain says, we're going to open a hotel in 2023, by December 31, we hope we've captured all the ones that they did open in 2023. So you can see that the one up from the bottom is 2019. Yeah. 75% actualization rate. 75% of the hotels, we track hotels in this, 75% of the hotels that were supposed to open, about 90, opened. Fantastic. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. But look at the other percentages how can anybody be happy about that? And in 2023, last year, the chains told me that they were going to open 139 hotels in Africa by December 31, 2023. "29 hotels actually opened last year of those 139. 21% actualization rate. I don't have time to go into all the reasons, but an awful lot of it is money. An awful lot of it goes back to lack of finance. Just briefly, if you were building a hotel and costed it at the beginning of last year in Nigeria, fast forward to today, the cost of that hotel in local currency is about 4 times what it was at the beginning of last year. Devaluation of the currency, we import everything, therefore it's becoming desperately expensive. Okay, so the Americans have the same problem. The Americans, in their development, when the Americans talk about growth in their system, 30, 40, 50% of that is conversions of one hotel from one brand to another. We don't really have that opportunity very much in Africa. This is what we're hoping will happen this year. By coincidence, the number due to open in 2024 is the same as in 2023, 139. So by the end of next year, nearly 300 hotels due to open with 46,570 rooms. 139 so far. I've only tracked 13. So there's a lot to go in the next 3 months. I mean, there will obviously be more than 13, and there's always this rush to get it done at the end of the year. But to reach that 75% of 2019, we need another 91-something hotels. That doesn't add up, does it? No, my math. Over 90 hotels due to open if we're going to reach that 75% actualization rate. I talked about the hotel stocks, the quoted companies, of which many of those in the chart there, the Marriotts, the Accors, the Hiltons, the Wyndhams, they're quoted companies. And what it's all about is NUG, net unit growth. This is what they aim for, and in other words, new rooms in their system. 4 to 6%. Oops, 4 to 6%. So the ticks are those who are working in Africa. Whitbread, Scandic, I mentioned Choice, but the others are all have pipeline and all have existing hotels in Africa. So about 4 to 6% annual net unit growth is what they're aiming for. Sometimes they achieve a bit more than that. And this is what the analysts, the stock analysts, look at when they're telling people to sell or hold or buy stocks, shares. Okay? And you know what? Those analysts take no notice of the pipeline whatsoever. How disappointing was that for me? You know? Oh, so you don't care what I put in my report. Well, they say, but we don't know about actualization. We don't know anything about delays. And of course, they're quite short term, the analysts. They're looking at next quarter's results, maybe looking at next year's results, but very rarely any further forward. And we're talking about hotels there. Some of them are 2030 TBC. That's shorthand for not a clue. Okay, they don't know when they're going to open. So how can they put value on them? So this is what it's all about. And I mentioned conversions, that they can get new unit growth in America and to some extent Europe by taking an existing hotel and changing brand. Not as many opportunities for that in Africa, because we don't have the stock to do it yet. So it's easy to be excited about what we report on in our pipeline report. It's easy to be excited about pipeline growth. It's also easy to dismiss it as lacking value. But it doesn't lack value, because unless you sign a deal, you won't open a hotel. So here's the story. You've seen the facts. You've seen the disappointing aspect of those data in terms of we've got to get more hotels open in order to add value. Add value not just in share price, but also in creating jobs and attracting foreign exchange and all the other benefits that we as an industry strive for. So keep on signing to get that net unit growth at the end. Give me a story to report on each year. But for goodness sake, get those hotels and resorts open. That's me. That's where I am. That report is on my front page of my website to download as and when you want. You can also, if you hunt around, get all the back copies as well. Thank you for listening.